This is the 21st season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. Got a good show today. We actually have if you've been inducted, does that still make you a future Hall of Famer, or are you a pending Hall of Famer? Anyway, we'll get into that. If you remember a couple months ago, we did a show where we had Neil Paul join the show and Steve Bowman joined the show. We talked about the process of getting inducted into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, which lives in the Wonders of Wildlife in Springfield, Missouri at the Bass Pro Shops. A lot of renovations have gone on there over the past year. Really not a once in a lifetime, but if you are a bass fishing fan, a place you must visit. And they had just, at the time we did an entire show, it's worth going back and listening on how you can get nominated, the voting process, and then how you can get inducted into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. So that process happened. And recently there were 3 individuals that were announced as the class of 2025 for the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. I tried to get William Shakespeare Jr. on, but he couldn't figure out how to work Skype since he was born in 1865. The other was Randy Hopper. And then there were one of the members of the media who's very adept at technology is Craig Lamb, who I have known since I was 13. So Craig Lamb will be on to talk about his induction. I'm going to bring Neil in first to talk about it. And then we're going to talk with Neil a little bit. Big event coming up at Lake Hartwell. He is the guy, as we talked about last time, that is responsible for bringing a lot of those events to the South Carolina area, specifically that Lake Hartwell region. So, but I actually got to fish yesterday. I've been up at 1. I'm out of contacts because my eye doctor appointment got rescheduled 3 times. So I've been working with the glasses, but I got to fish the last couple of days, actually filming for Tyler Berger. He's like Bass Fishing HQ. And we went out to 10 Killer, a venue that is on the Bassmaster Elite Series schedule later this year. Long story short, I'm a little, I wouldn't say like nervous, but I'm mystified as to what happened. It was really cool. I'd be interested if anybody has. I had a long talk about this morning already with another one of my buddies who's an angler. I called Scott Palmer from the Bass Tank and I was like, figure this out for me. Long story short, I was catching them on a minnow. I tried cranking, doing all sorts of stuff. And I had this group of fish that was under a ball of shad. Now, this is just fun fishing, no tournament, no practice, nothing, just fun. So at the end of the day, I caught some fish out of it, but they were kind of sketchy. Like they weren't exactly like going over and eating it. They weren't actively feeding on. So I'm reeling in my bait and I had snagged a shad. And I had cast to this school of fish probably 20, 30 times. It's the end of the day. I said, screw it. So I take my plastic off and I hook the shad like I was crappie fishing. And I just pitch it out on the jig head and it goes through the ball. And as soon as it drops through the ball of bait, these fish that I had put baits on their nose, ran 6 or 7 different baits through, all went nuts. Immediately swam up, fought over it, caught one on a live shad. I said, that's pretty interesting. So I picked the jerk bait up, run it through the school of shad. I hooked 2 more live shad. Take one, hook it through the nose, pitch it out through the school. They go nuts over it again. Now I made 3 casts with a nose hook live shad on a minnow. These fish that wouldn't react to any plastic of any size from 2 inches all the way up to 6 inches, an A-rig, a jerk bait, a hair, anything that I put on them would go nuts for a live shad. It looked identical. I had scent on it. And I'm like, man, that's pretty interesting. If you could actually figure out what it was, what element was it? Was it the scent? Was it the color? Was it the lateral line vibrate? What was it that those fish would destroy a live bait that went down to them identical, and something that looks the same but is plastic, that moves the same, that you think moves the same, they wouldn't even touch it. It got me thinking, which, typically you think a lot about how to catch fish. as I said yesterday, after you catch one fish on Kentucky Lake in 4 days, really makes you question things. So, all right, let's get to the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. Maybe Neil Paul in South Carolina has an answer to my problem. Why will they eat the live shad when something that looks just like it, Neil? I know you deal with those blueback lakes out there all the time. There's a whole industry in South Carolina, Neil, of guys, you have to have this bait and that bait that wobbles this way and is chrome and that, because it has to be just like a blueback herring. But I mean, you live in the land of live bait, don't you?
Oh yeah. And I was sitting here thinking, like, why didn't you just, at that point, after catching one on Kentucky Lake in 4 days, like, I would have even gone as far as to take a shad and rubber band it to a jerk bait or something, just something to do it. And I'm surprised you held out all day before you tried that. So
well, I didn't snag one until the end of the day. Matt Ellis, he's caught a fish or two on Kentucky Lake. He says the prey stress pheromones. Maybe our next guest, Craig, has written about prey stress pheromones in an article over the past 30 years.
I've never used those 3 words in a sentence together, so he's way ahead of me.
Yeah, no, neither have I. Prey stress pheromones. It sounds good though.
Yeah,
it makes sense. I feel like that should be on the back of some packaging for either baits or scent or something like that.
Yeah, we're on
PSP. PSP. There it is. All right. Exciting news last week. I know the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame sent out there's the voting members that are selected members of the media, and then every current living blue jacket holder, which are current Hall of Fame members, got a vote in it. I believe the list was 21 people that made it through the final cut, or 23 people. How many was it?
The final ballot was the ballot that went out was 20 people.
20 people.
It's the largest ballot that we've had in a number of years. Our bylaws, and I mean, we talked about this in our first meeting, I think. Our bylaws say that the ballot has to have a minimum of 10, a max no more than 25. So with the 20 person ballot that we assembled, we obviously fell well within our bylaws, and then the voting, as you mentioned, consisted of, there's 30 members of our selection panel, and want to give a shout out to those guys, without specifically naming off the 30 individuals, but those guys work really hard. They're very in tune in what's going on. They represent the industry, either as there's a couple of anglers on the list, there's media, and there's industry representatives, and they did a great job on their ballot. So want to thank those guys. And then the living Hall of Famers, the Blue Jackets, as we call them, there were 51 ballots that went out among that group as well. So when you got your past Hall of Famers, you got your selection panel, and those groups come together, cast their votes, points were tallied, and that's how we arrived at the 3 inductees.
And one of those 3 is the one and only Craig Lamb, who is joining us from his library. Craig, thanks for jumping on BTL, and congratulations on being a 2025 Hall of Fame inductee.
It's initially, when I found out, I was speechless. It's very humbling and gratifying to be chosen by peers and just industry peers and friends that you respect to get in this. It's talking to Kevin Van Dam. It is a big deal, but to me, with it comes with a responsibility to go above and beyond. What I do is maybe as a board member, as far as promoting the future and the history of the sport. Our core mission, values that you and me and Neil and the other board members do. So it's really humbling to me.
How did you find out? Like, what was walk us through the morning and how that came about?
Well, I mean, we were at a tournament. We were at Lake Okeechobee. It was Wednesday, the day before the tournament started, and Kyle Jesse sent out a text message to the media staff and said, "Hey, let's get together and have dinner at 5:30." And first of all, I'm thinking, why do we need to do that? Because we all know what we're doing anyway, and they all know that I don't like to go out to eat on a work night. I like to just kind of get all my stuff ready together. And I resisted it. I was literally at the grocery store getting a takeout, and Andy Crawford, our lead photographer, called me and said, "You got to come to this dinner." And I said, "I'm not going to come to that." And he said, "You got to do it for Kyle." Like, okay, I'm in toward Kyle. I'll do it for Kyle. I called Kyle up. I said, "Hey, man, I'm doing this for you," and that's it. And so I go to this sports bar restaurant, and there's all the guys, and Steve Bowman, and he gets up and he starts talking in ways that only Bowman can yak. And he came and hugged me and said, "You're being inducted into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame." And I was so overcome with emotion. I didn't expect it. But yeah, that's how they did it. And for me personally, I mean, everybody knows me that I'm kind of in the trenches, grassroots. There's no other place that I would have liked to have been told than with them and their,
Neil, you've been on the board for a while. I think one of the coolest things is hearing whether it's an angler, a media member, an industry person, when they find out that they're getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. I think out of the whole process, there's been guys who have found out on stage. There's been guys who've had family. There's been guys who've had their mentoring heroes let them know. In your opinion, is that probably one of the coolest parts of the entire process for the Hall of Famers that are currently alive when they find out and how they find out?
Oh, 100% and so for us, as a board, and this, we don't have any part per se in the election process. Our responsibility on the board is to manage the process, to protect the process. We're guardians of the process, and that's really what we are. And so to see the nomination, to be in the room per se, to see the nominations come in, to see, whether it's a fan, an industry representative, an angler, whoever it is that makes the nomination, because, our nominations are open for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And to see the nominations come in, to see that information assembled, discussed, a ballot formed, and then it goes out to the folks we mentioned before that vote, and then to see how they respond to it. I think, to me, one of the coolest, to lead into your point, one of the coolest parts is watching the process take place, to see how the different the selection panel, or even the Hall of Famers, how they vote, because how they vote tells you how they feel about a certain candidate or about a certain person. And then to see that come together, and then to have the announcements made in the various ways that they've been announced, and to see Craig, like, I didn't know that Craig doesn't like to go to dinner, right? So to know that he literally fought off going to dinner because someone videoed the announcement, and it was shared among our Hall of Fame board. So to see his reaction and his response, because it's a really big deal, and to know Craig, he's not just worked his way into this situation, like through his efforts and through the things that he's done, but just, you don't realize how liked and respected, or really loved and respected, that Craig is until you start talking from people throughout the industry, and everybody just gushes about him. So when you know that part, you see the video, and now you find out that he fought off going to dinner. Like, I want to know, like, here's my question, Craig. Like, what was going to be takeout at the grocery store?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. That's got to be some like macaroni salad or fried chicken or something that, like, what grocery store has takeout? I thought that's a good question, Neil. It's a hard-hitting question.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had it in
He didn't think we were serious. We really wanted to know. I'm in the Hall of Fame. I want to know what I get at the grocery store.
Oh, God. Yeah.
No, but really,
well, Bowman said it himself. He said, the only way I knew I could pull this off is to get you to dinner.
What was it, Craig? Do you remember what you were getting?
I don't even know what it was. By then, I was so bad at Andy, like, man, I don't even want to do this. And I put it back in, walked out, stormed out of the place, and drove up. I'm like, what are they all doing here? And it never thought occurred to me that Chase Sampson was sitting across from me with a freaking camera. And I'm like, what are you doing in a sports bar with a camera? I didn't even think about it.
He's not even old enough to go to a sports bar, is he?
One of the cool things that's on bassfishinghof.com is a bio on all three of the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame inductees in 2025. You have legendary industry boat manufacturer guys done. Everyone knows who Randy Hopper is, and then William Shakespeare. If you've been fishing, he was like the first guy with the level wind reel, among other things. Obviously, the Brandon Shakespeare. So, an interesting class, with you, Craig, which I kind of want to dive a little bit more into your career. You have some really interesting elements in it, and had a part in a lot of, the 80s and 90s. And then currently, like, you've really transitioned in your career. It's not like you just did the same thing for it, but no, like, current anglers really like a Skeet Reese or a Mike Iaconelli that we have seen in the past. So a unique group of three this year. But if you go into the profiles, your first line in here catches my attention. And it sounds like you got into this kind of at the lowest level possible. Like, you didn't come in as a hot shot rider and stuff. You came in the mid 1980s when you served as Wood's caddy for the Bass Tournament Trail. What was you had to be, what was that about?
First of all, I want to say something about Randy, that it is even much more gratifying to me to be in this class with Randy Hopper, because literally that is Flippin, Arkansas is where it started for me. I'm 21 years old, college educated, coming in hot, confident, ready to conquer the world. And there was no other place better for me to get in the real world and understand it and be brought and reeled in to, like, all right, you've got a college education. It's great, but it doesn't matter in this world. And so I had, I went to Flippin, and they call me the original Bass groupie, because what I did before that was, like, I was in high school and even college, I'd go to the tournaments and I would just want to meet those guys. And just once I figured out that doing it with a rod and reel wasn't going to work at all for me, would be getting a job in the industry. And so I just started meeting people, and Forrest and Ina were two of them. And I went to Flippin, no appointment, just showed up and said to Forrest, I want to work here.
Just walked into Ranger.
Walked right in there. Absolutely. Drove over there from Nashville. No big deal. And
what did you think when you got to Flippin? Because Flippin is not a thriving metropolis for all those who've been over in that neck of the woods in Arkansas.
The other thing, that I was so overwhelmed with Ranger that I didn't think about the environment around Ranger, that it's very rural. And it ain't like the University of Tennessee and Domino's Pizza and all that. So they called me back and said, yeah, come on over. We'll figure out something for you to do. And I didn't even know what it was. And, primarily what I did was I wrote press releases. I was a PR guy, and I answered correspondence, which was, I enjoyed doing that. Did plant tours, ended up, being kind of like a service crew guy at the tournaments. Although what I towed his boat with was he won the New York Invitational in 1979, and he and his wife matching Lincoln Continentals. I'm talking the land yacht thing. That's what I towed his boat with to the tournaments with it. And the trunk was so big that I had boat parts in there, and I worked on boats and all that. But what was most important for me was I was very impressionable. I would believe anything I was told. And, I was overconfident. I mean, we all were, when we were that age. But what I really took away from that was I learned about honesty, integrity, hard work, things that I wouldn't have thought about at the time. Like, I don't need that. And that's what I got in Flippin that I still use today. But yeah, it was amazing. It was incredible. It started everything for me.
So I pulled this up from 1990, and I'm gonna play it really quick. So this is what you walked into here. I'm gonna see this. See if this brings back some memories right here, and I think we should
Oh
have.
my God!
So I just got lucky to find this. But is this is what you walked into? Here, we'll get there. Right there.
That's it.
There's Forrest. There's the plant right there.
All the way up. Yep.
Hi, Bassmaster.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I was lucky that I had that. I was trying to get to the TNN days there, and I pulled that up, and then you started talking about walking into flipping to Forrest's office in the 80s in Flippin, Arkansas. And I was like, I just saw that episode. So that's amazing how that worked. So that's how you got into it. Just completely green out of it.
Yeah. I mean, but it's going back to how it all started. It was about role models. I wrote a fan mail letter to Rick Klein when I was 15, and he didn't send back a autographed picture, and he sent me a 3-page letter written on notebook paper, and it was all about chasing your dreams, and how he speaks, and don't accept defeat, and all of those things. And of course I didn't really at that age know, but then I started getting to fish with him at our tournaments in practice. And then Hank Parker, I did it with him. He would come through town, pick me up, and that's how I got to meet people like Forrest and Nina and Ray Scott and all of them. I was just the weird kid with no siblings or parents or anything in the industry who wouldn't go away.
So you were also, I didn't realize this. So you were the assistant tournament director at the top level of Bassmasters under Dewey?
Yeah, Dewey, again, through Ranger. Nothing against Ranger, and I wasn't job hopping. It was just a great opportunity back then to be able to take advantage of career growth and do things. Like to me, it was the best of times in the industry. Not to take anything away with now, but yeah, Dewey offered me the job as assistant tournament director, and he said, "I've only got one interview question," and he said, "Could you DQ Rick Clunn?" And there's only one answer. And it's not no. And that's how I got the job. So, when I was 20, I was still in my early, kind of approaching mid-20s, and I was in that job. And it's just, at the time, I didn't think about it because, you're fearless at that age. But
Oh, he froze on me, Neil. Oh, he's just getting to the go. You're back. Okay, keep going. Okay. You got to go. You're just getting to the good stuff, Craig.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know where we dropped off, but yeah.
You said you were just about to DQ Rick Clunn.
Yeah, no, I said the job interview question from Dewey was, there's only one interview question, and it's, could you DQ Rick Clunn? And there's only one correct answer, and it is not no. Mm-hmm. And because he knew, about that, and that was some of the best years of my career, there, and just really fundamentally, what I really wanted to do when I got to Bass was, as I started looking around, I really got to where I was fascinated with the publishing side of it, and really wanted to get into editorial. It's just what kept pulling me when I went into the building. It's like editorial. So that's really got me to where I am now, is being able to move into that.
Give us the biggest controversy you covered in the 1980s as an assistant tournament director, Craig. I mean, there was no Instagram, there was no YouTube, there was no way that you could just click a button and everybody knows about what goes on behind the scenes. You're past the statute of limitations. It's 30 years ago. Give us a wild story that you were like, my God, we had no idea what to do on this one from like 1988.
Probably. It probably just because it's something that Matt, you and I deal with all the time now with opens and stuff, is some of the weather calls that we made, and because we didn't have anything to go by. It's like you can kind of see them in this camera. The decision that how we would make the decision to go is like, do we walk out of the hotel room and we'd look at, yep, looks good, let's go. And there was a few times where we shouldn't have gone, but we're dealing with back then, 18-foot boats with 150s on them. But yeah, it kind of caught me off guard on that.
I know you gotta be careful.
Well, everybody
No.
probably got along back then.
Oh yeah, there's no controversy ever, was there? I mean, the controversy just
Yeah.
started 2 years ago, right, Craig?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
I think a healthy dose. I mean, you're dealing with
Yeah.
hundreds of guys who are individual LLC sole proprietors that are all trying to beat each other for their own money in a game that has uncontrollable variables. That's the fact of the matter on it. And the
Yeah.
tournament director is the most thankless job in all of the jobs you can have.
Yeah, I mean, I had to DQ a couple of guys, but they were like, they weren't Rick Clunns. A guy had a dip net in the boat. I said, here's a dip net in the boat. Look at this. You're out. The
You
silliest.
were also. Oh, sorry. Keep going now.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I didn't want to cut you off. I want to hear the silliest.
The silliest thing was I was running a Federation Nation tournament in Potomac River. We had a tie. And it's in September, so it's getting dark early. I had a tie, and so I did what I was supposed to do. Like, okay, you guys go out, and the first guy to catch a keeper advances to the national championship. Did an hour of that and watching the sun go down, and like, oh my God! And so I brought him back in. I said, first person to catch a bass goes, and we're right there at the release site, right there at Smallwood State Park. Perfect pads, everything. Nothing there. Now it's getting really, really dark. It's getting close. I'm sweating it. So there's a payphone at the marina, the floating dock. I called Dewey and I said, here's what's happening. He said, you got a quarter in your pocket? I'm like, yeah, what? Why? He said, flip it.
Oh my gosh.
So I got those two guys together. I said, okay, you got two choices. Either we're spending the night and we're going back out tomorrow, or I flip this coin right here, call it, and the guy who gets it goes. Well, they both had like state tournaments the next day, and they said flip it, and I flipped it, and that was it.
So literally, a Bassmaster tournament was decided on a coin flip.
Yep, sure was.
That's really good stuff. I do want to mention, so I think one of the iconic, I would say the most iconic series outside of the Elite Series, which is currently 17th season. It started in 2006. Like, I think the best call from that inaugural Elite Series season is Greg Hackney's Godzilla Ain't Got Nothing on Me on the riprap on Lake Dardanelle. But take the Elite Series out, and when I think of bass and nostalgia, I think of megabucks. Fair assessment, Neil?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Fair assessment, Craig. You had an integral part in the production of megabucks back in the day as well.
I sure did. Again, when it started, I was assistant tournament director. And so I was the one who had to go over, like at Little Lake Harris, I had to go over there, and it was silly to get the guys to rotate. I had an air horn, and at every 50 minutes, and so they'd all rotate around, and so I was the guy who had to keep up with the time. And I happened to be very close to where Larry Nixon caught that 10-pounder, that. Where he's the oh my God moment, where the show.
Hold on a second. Really... Pause it. This one right here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That one. This is the tournament you're talking about.
Yep.
God, the graphics back then were on fire.
Well, yeah, and here I am right there.
Wait, whoa! That was you? Where were you?
Yeah.
Wait, is that you putting the stick in the off limits?
Yeah, and then you see me with that life jacket on. That's me. Yeah.
That's you.
That's me.
Oh, yeah, you're putting up there's the whole course right there. See where I'm circling? You're saying, because they would rotate every second. We got to watch this beginning again and realize it. You have a 1988 montage on YouTube? There you are again.
My boss.
Look at those hook sets. We got to get to the deal, the main deal here. Here it is, right here. This is it. We're about to see the Nixon, aren't we?
Yeah.
Today we're at Megabuck
Oh,
on the
where is
Harris
it?
Well, maybe
Arena
not.
in Leesburg,
No, here it
Florida.
comes.
This is a unique bass angling top
Sorry,
class
Ray.
catch
There
ever
we go.
recorded on any Bassmaster show.
Right there.
Oh my gosh! Look at the size of that bass.
That fish.
That's awesome.
My gosh, look at the size of that bass.
Dude, I'm like 2 for 2 on Lynn Dollar videos today. He's also on the guest list. I've been trying to get Lynn Dollar on. He's uploaded all those old school. I don't know. I'll probably get a strike from YouTube for Bassmaster now for playing that. But because you're in the Hall of Fame and you work for Bassmaster, maybe you could put in a word for that. But I did not know that was you at the beginning, Craig.
Yeah, that's how we laid the holes out.
Yeah.
We had a map.
Okay, so tell the
saw the whole
story, because
thing.
that's what you started. You were talking
Oh,
about it and you
because-
got to the Larry Nixon.
I was nearby them, and I looked over there, and I heard all this whooping and hollering, and there I saw Bob Cobb in their camera boat, and it was like, what the heck? And I went over there, and he caught that fish, and they were still beside themselves. Yeah, but then the production side of it, we really upped the production value of it by adding more cameras and just making the show a little bit more just richer, if you will, to increase the ratings. Because the plan was never to have a Bassmaster CB series. The idea was just to do it as an infomercial, because we were trying to get our membership over 500,000, because that's what Chevrolet and all the non-endemics said. In order for us to advertise and be sponsors with you all, you need to have that circulation up, 500,000-600,000. And so Helen Severe came up with the idea, let's do this infomercial, and it got to TNN, and they said, oh no, we're going to make a series out of it. So that's how it all started.
Thank God for TNN.
Yeah.
How long did it run on TNN?
Until 2000, when
Okay.
ESPN bought it. From 84 to 2000, it was on TNN.
Yeah, and then kind of that 2000s is when it really exploded. Also with FLW Outdoors, which interestingly, Randy Hopper had a lot to do, I believe, with the FLW Outdoors and the expansion of that, and the Flash and the rap, like all that type of stuff too. And then it was kind of off and running then. So you write now a lot, Craig, and have written a lot. I'm curious, do you have any ballpark figure of how many articles, tournament recaps, stuff you have written over the years that every single person that has ever heard of or read about Bassmaster or bass fishing has read?
I'm closed in on 400 tournaments. That would include bass, and probably article wise, I think it's 1,500 or 2,000 articles, probably of various sizes. Really when we were in print, because I was doing Bass Times, Bassmaster.
Yeah.
Then you roll in the .com.
So what? 20, 30? You're up like over 5,000 articles, right? 10,000? Like
Maybe.
you have to be.
Yeah.
Do you happen to have one that's stick? Oh yeah. I was wondering if you had one that
I
sticks
do.
out.
I have one that's really, really, really.
It's got to be on like Van Damme or Oh my gosh!
Look at this.
You found the magazine. 1998. What did that open with? Because I would imagine that was probably, you're probably really nervous writing that one, knowing it would go in the 1998 Casting Kits magazine.
Yeah,
was there like a poignant opening to it?
No, I wrote it. I'm looking at the lead. I'm like, oh, really? That's not that big a deal. Because I had to write it. Keep in mind, I had to write it for a 7 to 10-year-old reader. So they told me, it's like, you got to go back and write it for like a 5th or 6th grader.
That was cool. That's my claim to fame, is I've had Craig Lamb write an article about me, and then that was at the time I was like, oh, that'll be the first of many magazine covers holding it back. It's still the one and only, so it is what it is. But it's not. It seems like it's a long way away now. I know there's a lot of tournaments and travel and coverage. Like you have spent, I think the last time I talked to you, you spend upwards of 200 plus days a year on the road some years still. to this day covering tournaments. I mean, would you say that's a fair assessment? 200 plus days covering everything between media events and writing and traveling and tournaments and opens and everything?
It's probably closer to 120 days now because I've got administrative duties in Birmingham that I work on. So, yeah, but it's still consistently, 40 years of this, that pace. Yeah, it's all I know. You know, I don't know anything else. I don't know what I'm going to do when I stop. I know what my wife says I'm going to do. She says you're going to travel. But yeah.
Which you've done a lot of traveling. Are you looking? Have you thought about the induction ceremony at Wonders of Wildlife there coming up this fall? What that's going to mean to you to have your friends, to have your family there, to have so many of the peers, a lot of the anglers that you have written about for over 4 decades.
Yeah, because it's going to be more about all of them watched me grow up in this. You know, they know. Gosh, everybody in there that wears a blue jacket that night will probably, most of them will have seen me when I was really young. And so that alone is just going to be very, very meaningful to me to, God, put that jacket on. I can't imagine what that's going to be like. Wow. It's, yeah, I've thought about it. I know what I'm going to say already. Very, very passionate about that. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with everybody.
Is it going to be shorter than Skeet Reese?
It'll be between Skeet Reese and Gerald Crawford. I'm going to get my gold star from Barbara Moman, the executive director. It probably will be about 10 minutes because what I want to say is, yeah, I'm sure, Neil, that'll make everybody happy. Pass the word.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
On the great honor. And if you guys want to know more about any of the 3 inductees, who is in the Hall of Fame, the process to get into the Hall of Fame, what you can see when you visit there, how you can donate to the Hall of Fame, bassfishinghof.com is the place to go. I think you can also, now I know that last year was very well attended. They had raffle items that were there, auction items, but I believe they're still doing it this. I'll get a call if it's not. But if you're just a fan of bass fishing, and you want to attend the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame banquet, it's not an invitation only. You can purchase a ticket and sit at a table and look over and see the Blue Jackets and see Larry Nixon sitting next to a Stacy King, sitting next to a Rick Clunn, sitting next to a Roland Martin. Like, you can go do that and attend it. And I know that there's been some people that I've mentioned that on BTL in the past years that have been like, holy cow, like this is the best kept secret in professional bass fishing. So if you want to go this year.
But
yes,
keep in mind, it's a very small number of tickets available. It's not.
They're still doing the tickets this next year, right, Neil?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. You can't like buy them at the door. Bassfishinghof.com is the place to go for that. Anything else before I let you go? I know you got a meeting, Craig. I'm going to keep Neil. We have some fishing matters to attend to that are coming up on the home pond.
Fish on, guys. I appreciate it. It's an honor to serve with you on the board, and I look forward to seeing you soon at the Classic.
Thanks, Craig. See you.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Well, that worked out nicely.
Yeah, what great! Listen to great stories. Like I could have kept listening. Is kind of like story time.
Yeah. And I got lucky on the videos too. I didn't know that was him in it. I had Megabucks pulled up, and then there's Craig Lamb in the high hat with the life vest on.
Yeah,
pounding in steaks. Do you remember the Megabucks, Neil? Are you? I know you're.
No, I do. I was a kid. I was a kid. I was obviously a lot younger, and I remember it. And I remember. I think about the closest. I remember a Megabucks event at Lake Murray one time. But like personally, like that's my only experience was a Megabucks event at Murray one time, but obviously I've only lived here, so I'm in my 16th year here at Visit Anderson. So the only thing I've got experience with here from a professional standpoint, is just what we've been able to host in the last 10 or 11 years. But I do remember the Megabucks events, and then obviously as a big fan of the sport, going back and watching some of the old TV shows and some of the old footage and stuff like that. I mean, what a tremendous time, right?
Yeah. Oh, Craig wrote this article. I didn't even know that. It's like Larry Dixon. He's like synonymous. This is back in 2023 with Megabucks and what went on there. Obviously, it was before my time as well. But as a fish nerd, you go back and you watch it. You hear the old school guys talk about fishing in it, how unique it was back then. They would literally fish in a whole course, basically like a golf course, and then have to move whole courses. The money was absolutely insane into it, and it made a lot of, I would say at that time, the second generation superstars. Like you had your Cluns, you had your Roland Martins, your Jimmy Houstons, that type. But that Larry Nixon was in that, but that kind of Denny Brower and Larry Nixon and that whole next kind of group of guys like were kind of made in the late 80s with those Megabucks tournaments, and then the way they produced them, the way it came out on TV. It was interesting how he said that was going to be an infomercial. It makes sense because, I mean, everyone talks about, Ray Scott was a businessman. You talk about him selling stuff on Toomer's Corner right there at Auburn University with the hat, always been a salesman, a businessman. So for him to go, hell, if we record this and put it out, we can buy some airtime and we can get more members, which brings in more money, it was really cool. I had no idea.
No. And imagine doing a one-off event like that today with the folks. I mean, and I hate to bring it up just because it sparks an entirely different conversation, but imagine doing something format wise like that today as a one-off event with all the guys that scope.
Yeah.
And, and you've got your spots, and now
you've got scope holes and scope holes. You can't. Here's what we need to do, Neil, and I'm hoping Bassmaster is listening. So I've always been a fan of some sort of all-star specialty weekend, whether it was the TTBC back in the day. Sometimes they've incorporated Angler of the Year points into it. They did it on the Alabama River for a couple of years. They would have like an all-star week. They did it in Central Illinois one year. I remember like Aaron and Edwin battling it out there for like 3 fish that lived in Lake Decatur. I think it would be a fantastic event if you take the top 10 in the Angler of the Year standings from the 2025 Bassmaster Elite Series, and you have an all-star weekend. You can handpick the fishery. You have a Megabucks rewind, old school one-off all-star event where they do the whole courses like that, and you pick a fishery that has grass, it has deep clear rock, it has shallow muddy water, and those guys rotate for 3 days in that all-star event. That would be cool.
Absolutely. And I'll do you one. I'll take your idea and we'll add one. And I've said on this one for a little while, and selfishly would love to do it here at our place with our facilities. But I think it would be cool to do and it could be a 1 day made for TV, whether it's on the .com or whether it's a live kind of thing, whatever, is to do a 1 day team tournament where you pair a current angler with a Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have, for example, Seth Feider and Denny Brower in a boat together. You could have, Hank Parker and Jason Christie in a boat together.
Or you'd have to go Jimmy. You'd have to go Jimmy with the spinner bait. Neil.
Well, that's true.
The Oklahoma Roots, Jason
here,
with the spinner bait. You'd have to go Jimmy and Jason.
Okay, and so, but see, around the Carolinas, we know Hank Parker was really good with a spinner bait too. So that's where my head was.
Yeah.
But have something like that, and do something fun like that. I think that'd be really cool.
No, it is. This article is really cool for those that aren't understand the Megabucks. Craig mentions this. He goes, the Megabucks winner back then, it was $100,000 cash. I mean, that's what they promoted, right? Yeah, Hank and Jason's a good one too, Clay. You're right. I'm a little biased. One of the BTL listeners sent this, like, that is the OG Jimmy Houston spinnerbait with the red head. With the Colorado, with the wire tie, all that.
Well, and it's funny you say that. So if you saw Jason Christie's video, his wrap-up video from his win over the weekend at Santee
Santee.
Cooper with the MPFL. One of his spinner baits that he threw two spinner, according to his video, he threw two spinner baits, and one of them's a Colorado blade with a red head.
You know why? Right there.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That's it.
and so that's really cool. Yeah.
Get this. So I did not know this. This is Craig Lamb's article from 2023. The Megabucks winner did not receive the $100,000 cash up front. Instead, he received a $20,000 check and then an $8,000 annuity payment for the next 10 years.
You imagine doing that today?
Oh, people would go nuts, Neil.
You'd have, oh my gosh, we'd have fist fights in the parking lot again.
Yeah, he said our Bass Invitational tournaments lasted 3 days, doubling the time for Megabucks, logistically treating it like two events in one. Setting up the 10-hole course began at the office, with Dewey marking boundaries of the course on a topographical map. At the lake, we then eyeball the most ideal spots along the shoreline to hammer the hole boundary signs into the bottom, which is the video of the opening up on that. Going from one to the next around the lake, and then buoys were set up around the lake. That's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Are you? I know you have a meeting. I know we're 47 minutes in. If we take a quick break, can we hit on the MLF Invitational that is coming to your home pond?
Yeah. So I don't have a meeting until I got about 15 more minutes. We're good.
15 more minutes. Well, screw the commercial break. I'll just run it afterwards, and we'll chat about the MLF Invitational. So, Lake Hartwell has 140 plus guys coming there this weekend. I believe they're practicing right now.
Yeah, and actually the roster is we're going to fish about 115 guys.
Okay.
So yeah, so Tackle Warehouse Invitational with Major League Fishing this weekend gets started on Friday. The full field of guys will fish Friday, Saturday. Top 30 will fish Sunday. Now, I've been on the phone. Here's a little first look information for you. Been on the phone with our emergency management folks this morning. We do. There is a threat of some severe thunderstorms moving across the southeast on Saturday, and so it may impact Sunday's tournament day. So not really sure. We're making plans. Just kind of you make plans like for a situation like this. Is it going to be a 2-day event, or is it going to be a 3-day event? But it's this. Personally, for me, it's going to be a lot of fun just because it's the first professional level MLF event that we've had here on Hartwell since the 2016 FLW Tour stop, which coincidentally was the first. I had been the interim director here for like a month, and that was the first tournament contract that I had signed. It was we signed it in June of 2015. For the 2016 tour stop, and so it's really kind of cool to look back at that event from really, and it's literally like within a day or two of being the same dates as it was in 2016. So it was a really cool event. Had a lot of guys. We just talked about Larry Nixon and the Megabucks. Larry Nixon finished 7th in that FLW event here in 2016, But to have those guys in town this week, and I know Kevin Hunt and those guys do a great job, and it'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm going to pull up the stats for that really quick. I'm curious just to see. There's a lot of new faces on the invitationals this year.
Yeah, and then they let the guys, they kind of one off it too. So we'll have some BPT guys fishing this weekend, and
oh my gosh, look at this list, Neil.
Yeah,
so John Cox, Clark Wendlet,
1 and 2. Yeah,
Bass Nation champ Jamie Horton.
Yeah, so I printed that list as well. I have the results, and I'm just kind of going through here. But like,
I don't want to steal. I don't want to steal it, dude. That's an insane list, Neil. Keep going.
But like, like John Cox won it. You had Clark Wendlet finish second. Clark actually had the day 2 lead, I believe it was, the day 1 or day 2 lead in the event. But like, just look at guys that they're just careers they've done so much. But like, I look at like Jeff Gustafson. Gussie finished 4th.
classic
in
champ.
that event. Yeah, Larry Nixon. We talked about Megabucks.
Well, you can't skip Brian Thrift in fifth.
No, well, Thrift finished fifth. Corey Johnston, there's a name for you, eighth.
Yeah. The $2 million man, Daryl Robertson. He's a Jay, Oklahoma native.
Okay, so and then him, and then you got Peter T in ninth. Matt Aaron finished 11th. Chris Johnson, your angler of the year last year at Bass, finished 12th.
Dude, if you fish this tournament, you are doing well in 2025.
So listen, it gets better. So you got Scott Martin in 18th. From looking at the roster for this week and the results from 16, I can only find just initially two guys that fished that event in 16 that are fishing this week, and that's locally Brian Latimer and then Mark Rose is fishing this week. But Mark Rose fished that event and finished 52nd.
Yeah, there's a throwback. Everyone's favorite BTLer. Oh, trust me, we'll get him out of retirement eventually. I still get emails about it. Bradley Hallman,
I saw that.
5 finish.
Yeah, I mean Mark Daniels Jr. 30th. Stetson Blaylock. He went to the elites the next year.
Yeah.
Finished 32nd. You got
Luke Duncan fished that tournament.
Luke Duncan. As a matter of fact, so listen, it's a quick funny story about that. So Luke doesn't make the weekend, and if you remember FLW back in the day, they would do this deal where they would keep a couple of guys around on Saturday morning that didn't make the day 3 cut. And if you had a local dignitary or a local somebody you wanted to recognize, they would have a couple of their guys take them fishing. Well, Luke used to do that, and Luke took one of our county councilmen out fishing, and it's a guy, and he's a former councilman that liked to fish, and he used to tell us about this place where he'd go catch all his fish. He had this secret hole, and he had this thing nobody knew about, and all this stuff. And he gets in the boat with Luke Duncan, and the first place they went was his fishing hole. And I'm like, because there are no secrets, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, Luke, I just looked through it. Jacob Wheeler finished 46th.
That's the lowest tournament finish he's ever had.
Yeah, it was all uphill from there, right? James Watson, 61st. Zell Rowland, 62nd.
Yeah, Jimmy Houston fished that.
Jimmy Houston, an interesting story about it. 2016 was Jimmy's 50th year in professional fishing. And so our county council, we did a resolution to recognize Jimmy for 50 years in professional fishing, and we presented it to him at the angler meet. And that was a really cool memory from that event. David Dudley finished 70th. Michael Neal, 77th, right?
Hey, here's a fun fact. Can you guess what it's in his bio? Can you guess what Jimmy Houston's favorite television show is?
Jimmy Houston Outdoors. Dancing
with the Stars.
Is it really?
He enjoys hunting, and when he's not on the water, he's watching Dancing with the Stars. Says it right there on his MLF profile.
That's actually really good. You need to hear this. John Mazurkiewicz. You know, John's the president of the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame board, and John tells a story about taking a group and going to fish with Jimmy one time, and they took a morning break from fishing to go in and watch Jimmy Houston Outdoors and have breakfast
with Jimmy Houston.
Yes, with Jimmy Houston. So that's always a fun story. But yeah, so Randy Blockett, 119. Jay Yellis, one of a handful of guys to, I think, win the Classic and the Forrest Wood Cup. He finished 138. David Fritz, 125. So it was really cool just to go through and look at those old results, and then of course look at the roster for this week.
It'll be interesting to see this year. A lot of those guys that are Elite Series champions, Classic champions. I mean, Gussie fishes that in 2016, and what of note is, hey, there's a Canadian fishing the FLW too. Like, it'll be interesting to look at the guys that are fishing this week, and then 9-10 years later, look back at. It's always cool. Look back and say, oh man, all those guys have that one break, and then they take it and they just roll with it.
Yeah, and you never know. And I tell this to folks all the time. You never know when your opportunity's coming. You just have to prepare every day like that day is going to be your day. and so that when you do get that opportunity, you're ready to capture it and run.
Yeah. Dude, that was cool listening to Craig, wasn't it?
It was. It was, and you take a lot of pride in the fact that you read those bios, you read those nominations, and you feel like you know somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and then you find out that there's still a lot more you didn't know. Like I had no clue about the guy doesn't like to go out to dinner, and I've probably invited him to dinner before, and he's turned me down. So now I know why.
So here's the thing. So there are a couple people that were like, "What? No anglers in the Hall of Fame?" And I want to talk about that for a second, Neil, because I responded to one of them, and I was like, "The only reason you've heard about the championships is because of people behind the scenes, like the race god who starts the organization, like a Forrest Wood who creates the boat that allows him to fish, that builds it, like a Craig Lamb that is able to not only work in the industry on that side at the top level, but then transition and write about it and get the information out and have it in Bassmaster magazine and write all those thousands of things." If you go look at any Hall of Fame across the country, and there's been some discussion that maybe there should be a media section or an industry section or an angler section. It's not the way that is right now with the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, but it is an entire 360-degree, and every single piece of it has to work fluidly. And if it's broken, it's no longer a circle. And everyone has done a different job in a different industry, in a different arena. Some guys have won 7 Bassmaster Angler of the Years, 4 Bassmaster Classics, and $7 million in earnings. Other guys have been integral with Ranger Boats and Bassmasters on TNN and Megabucks and editor of Bassmaster, and it all works, and they're all deserving in a different way. That's my piece on it.
Oh no, absolutely. And here's the thing, and we talked about this in the beginning, like our ballot had 20 people on it this year, right? And let me just say this, we get a lot of nominations. There's a lot of conversation and hours to get poured over this stuff by a group of volunteers that are just passionate about what we do.
From the nomination committee.
From the nominations committee, and which is another group that deserves a lot of credit as well. Those folks, they put in a lot of time, and we work really, really hard in this. And the ballot that was assembled this year with the 20 names, there was no shortage of anglers included in that. What I would like to remind folks that are like, wait a minute, what? No anglers? When that ballot was put before the selection panel, which I mentioned there's a couple of anglers, there's industry reps and media representatives from throughout the industry, as well as the 51 living Hall of Famers. When that information was put in front of them, that ballot that consisted of 20 names, the 3 that are inducted are the 3 that were highly regarded among those 2 groups more than anybody else. So, quite frankly, if we would have had to work down the point totals to put an angler in there, and to me that's not the right way to manage not manage, but we're not guarding this process and protecting this process if we do it that way. It was. I mean, the 3 that are going in are the 3 that stood out head and shoulders above the others, and that was voted on by their peers, whether in the industry or the Hall of Famers, the Blue Jackets. And to me, those are the votes that when they come in, those Hall of Famer, those Blue Jacket votes are the ones that I pay close attention to, because that tells you a lot. That tells you that group, these are the people that we hold in the highest regard. And to me, that's important.
I'd also point out that in the Baseball Hall of Fame, there are over 50 members of the Hall of Fame who were inducted as MLB executives or pioneers in the industry. Now, granted, that goes back to the 1800s, and you're also seeing the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. We've got a William Shakespeare Jr. in here who's in the 1800s, but this is a young sport. And there's a lot of people to where I think you take for granted how many people are still around and still active in the sport who, like, you see them and you talk to them and this is what they do today, but you don't know what they did in the 70s. You don't know what they did in the 80s that were major, massive changes in a young sport that molded the path where professional bass fishing is today.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned there was another name on the Pioneer wise. There's, E.A. Pfluger was on the ballot. Just didn't score high enough to be in that top 3.
And he'll be on it next year then. Once you're on, you're on for 3 years and he'll be considered again. And
well, yes, and I think once you're on the ballot, I think the way our bylaws write is that or read is that if you're once you make the ballot, you stay in the loop for like 5 years, and then you roll off after 5 years, and then you have to be renominated. Is kind of how that works. But it was nice to see, because I think probably one area that I'm not going to say we've fallen short, because everybody works extremely hard at what we're doing, but I think one area that we could probably make some more ground is highlighting and celebrating our pioneers of the sport. And certainly the William Shakespeare going in this year's class sort of represents that among our Hall of Famers and our selection panel. So I'm really proud. I'm really proud of what we were able to accomplish this year and with this class. And this class, it's going to be a lot of fun to see this class go in.
Totally agree, Neil. It was really cool. He mentioned Rick Clunn a couple of times. So, Rick retired from the Elite Series, didn't retire from fishing. And he fished that open on Kentucky Lake. And there I had, I was at the weigh, and I had 1 2-pound, 7-ounce bass. But the way we parked the boats, there was a long way to walk down. And, Rick is just sitting to my right, just sitting in his boat. And I just waved at him on the way back, and I weigh my fish, and I'm walking back, and he goes, "Hey." And he was addressing me. He's addressing me personally, Neil.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "How'd it go today?" And I said, I only caught 1. And then I told this stupid story that I wish I hadn't told, where I was like, and then I hooked something on a crankbait and I thought it was a big one, but it turned out to be a rock. But like I thought it was a fish. And he's just like, good story. And then I said, "How'd it go for you?" And then he tells me about how a 6-pounder ate his little spinner bait right by the boat. And we had I'm like, dude, I just got to talk fishing, like in a tournament setting. We were both on the water at the same time. I had a really shitty day, and he only caught 2. And that interaction right there from one of the pioneers, the best that's ever done it, who's been in it for over 50 years, to have that one-on-one, dude, that's like Babe Ruth asking you about your at-bat, even though you struck out looking on 3 consecutive pitches and the bat stayed on your shoulder. But he was like, "Hey, man, what'd you see on that 0-2 count?" Like, dude, you don't get to do that in any other sports. And I think it's drastically underappreciated. But that made my whole week. And I talked to Rick. I know Rick. He's at the Hall of Fame. Not like best friends with Rick Clunn. We talk poker. But I never had a tournament setting interaction with him where we were both in the same tournament. And it was freaking awesome.
No, and you mentioned something there, talking poker. I think sometimes or oftentimes when you get to talk to somebody like that you hold in such a high regard, when they're willing to talk with you about something other than the task at hand, like I think that's as equal or more special. Like I remember the first year I was on the Hall of Fame board and coming to Springfield as a board member for the first time and having an opportunity to go run errands because I had a rental car and he didn't. So I had to take Kevin Van Dam to run errands. And first of all, it was kind of funny because I want to say it was toothpaste or something that he forgot, and we had to go to the drugstore. And I'm like, "You mean the guy's human, right? He forgot to pack his toothpaste." But so we're riding down the road, and we're riding down to the drugstore. I'm taking KVD to the drugstore, right? And we talked all the way to the Walgreens and back, I think it was. We talked NASCAR. He found out that I was a closet NASCAR fan, and we're trading phone pictures of races we've been to and talking about going to NASCAR races. And I get home and I'm like, I tell some of my buddies, I'm like, I had to take Kevin Van Dam to get toothpaste. And they're like, they were just so like, you got to ride in the car. What wisdom did he impart on you? I'm like, "Oh, we talk NASCAR." And they're like, they were just mortified. Like, why would you talk NASCAR with KVD? I'm like, dude, we had a blast. But I think there's a level of, you've reached a level of comfort with somebody when they're willing to like let down and talk to you about something other than, because I mean, how many people talk fishing with Rick Clunn, right? But also how many people get to talk poker? Probably far less, right? And the same thing with Kevin. It's really cool that way.
Yeah, Rick had the hat on, like it was vintage Rick Clunn.
Yeah.
Just like vintage Kevin. I bet you pulled the car into that Walgreens and he knew exactly what toothpaste, what aisle it was in. He was out of the car and back in the car in less than a minute.
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, it was like NASA. It was like a pit stop. It was like, but let me tell you something. I never drove to a Walgreens more efficiently than I did that night. I mean, hands at 10 and 2. We stopped at all the lights, blinkers for turn in. Like it was, it wasn't like a Walgreens trip with my wife. I can assure you that.
Yeah, it's cool. You get to interact with him being on the board and stuff. How passionate he is still about not just fishing, but about the industry and the sport, and how much he treats it like a business, but still appreciates what the sport has given him.
Oh, 100%. And I tell this a lot of times. So I come from an athletics background. For people that don't know this about me, before I got into travel and tourism, I coached basketball in college, and we got fired because we didn't win enough games. And that's how I sort of transitioned to travel and tourism, just to be honest about it. But the people that I always admired, whether it was an athlete or a coach or somebody that somebody in a high level that I had a lot of regard for, you always hear the thing about the successful people like that. They are a master of the details and doing the little things right. And the other thing is that they always make time they make time for the important things, right? And you see that success. They're not just successful anglers or successful coaches or successful athletes. They're successful in the community. They're successful at home. The people around them are successful. And those are the types of people that I've sort of gravitated to. But to see Kevin as an angler and watch him grow, like I tell two stories about Kevin that I think sum it all up. And one is, I've got a picture in my office somewhere of Kevin when we hosted the 15 Classic here. All right. We hosted 15 Classic here. It was the cold one.
Casey Ashley wins it on an underspin out of a gut with a handmade bait.
It was a handmade underspin.
Yep.
with a Fluke Junior. But Kevin missed that Classic. And I have a picture. The Weather Channel did a live remote at day one of the launch for the Classic, or day two, one of the first couple of days. Maybe it was Saturday, but they did a live deal from the ramp there at Green Pond, and they interviewed Kevin on the Weather Channel. But I've got a picture when takeoff starts of Kevin standing there watching the boats take off. And Kevin Van Dam, the guy's won 4 Classics, and he's at the Classic watching the takeoff, right? And he's not in it. So fast forward to 2018, he's in that Classic. Joe Lee wins that Classic. It was the second of the 2 that he won in a row. But Friday morning, the first day that the guys can be on the water for what they call like unofficial practice, headed into the weekend before Classic week, the guys can get on the water, and I leave my house. I go like I do with a lot of big events that we have. I'll ride through Green Pond just to kind of get the scope on things. And the very first car in the parking lot was Kevin Van Dam's truck, right? Very first in the parking lot, first parking spot on the first day of practice. The second story I'll tell is one from the Hall of Fame. And we're in a board meeting a couple years ago on that Thursday, and we're talking about everything. And for people that don't know, like, we're very hands-on and very involved. And we have our board meeting on Thursday. We have the induction ceremony events and everything at WOW or on Thursday evening. But then as a board, we come back in on Friday, and we basically have to clean up, pack up, secure all our stuff, ship out auction items and things, and then we depart for home. And so obviously we always try to get as many folks as can to stay over to Friday. So, as my dad used to say, many hands make light work, right?
Mhm.
And so Kevin says, hey, he says, hey, I just want to let you guys know, I've got to be, Bass Pro takes advantage of the time that I'm in town, and they want me over here at the store at 5:30 a.m. so they can shoot Black Friday commercials. And so I'm going to be late to pack up. And they're like, oh, Kevin, no. Like, you go shoot your commercials. We can pack the boxes without you. Right. And he's like, no. So we come back Friday morning about 10 a.m. The door opens to the room. Kevin comes in, takes his jersey off. He's got a T-shirt on, and he grabs a tape gun and starts taping boxes. And I remember watching him across the room, and I'm like, son of a gun. Like, that's him. Like, that's why he's great at everything he does, is because he is a details guy. He says what he means and means what he says. And that's why he's, for lack of better words, that's why he's the Michael Jordan of bass fishing, because of things like that right there.
Mm-hmm. Look at this. We'll close with this, Neil. This sums it up right here. Look at that picture.
Yeah, dude, that's like that strikes. How many people saw that picture and like automatically got intimidated?
Like, dude,
I
you do
did.
that with 99% of bass fishermen, and your first reaction would be to literally start laughing. You do that with KVD. You put him in a backlight like that with the logo and all that. And you're like, oh yeah, that's badass.
Yeah,
All right. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for jumping on again. It was a fun show.
Absolutely. And thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And the work that you do, not just across the industry, but with the Hall of Fame, man.
I don't do as much as I should.
Well, you'll get there. Everybody has to.
I should have been
crawl before they can walk, right?
Yeah. I try to accentuate my strengths.
Hey, you keep at it, man. No, we appreciate it. And you do a tremendous job. And just like I got reminded when we visited last that I didn't do the proper job of giving you the propers that you deserved on the MC job you did down at the plaque unveiling. So,
oh, dude, that's the most terrified I've ever been public speaking. I literally, right before I go live, look in front of me and Johnny Morris walks past.
Yeah. But you slayed it. And so no, that don't.
I was sweating so bad. I will never be able to wear that shirt again. The collar is a completely different color now.
But you did a smash up job, dude. Seriously, appreciate it.
I had to go outside the emergency exit door and chug a Corona. I'll see you next time, Neil. I'll see you at the Classic.
Thanks, brother. Have a great trip.
All right, later. There it is, Neil Paul from the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. It does a ton of stuff over there in the Carolinas too, especially right now. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up, kind of detail what we're doing on Classic Week coming up, and also maybe dive back into the bait fish thing. We got some more people out. I'm just curious. It was the first time that I had ever caught a bass on live bait outside of a night crawler when I was like 10. It's BTL on a Wednesday. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Your early morning mentality is your every hour mentality. All gas, no brakes. Focus, purpose, power. Destined for the water, but confident everywhere else. A calming buzz before the storm, truth of nature itself. You can't catch lightning in a bottle. There's a limit out there, but it's not with your gear. Unrelenting power delivery. Unparalleled weight savings. Keeping you on the water whether you run a 9.9 or outscoping your best 5. In this rare air, there's power in the silence. It's a mindset, thinking only of the things that matter and freeing your mind from the things that you trust.
This is Gamakatsu's new Nano Alpha line of hooks. If it looks familiar, that's because they are. It's the same shapes and sizes in the round bend and the EWG and in the new Horizon head that you know and love from Gamakatsu, but there are a couple new features with this Nano Alpha, which is this little green label that you see on the packaging. First off, 2 times faster hook penetration. That's because of the Nano Alpha smooth coating on it, and also it is 4 times more corrosion resistant. Check it out, Nano Alpha.
I've been using Sunline Shooter for the majority of my career. Millions of dollars made, lots of bass caught, and the gnarly stuff. If you need a abrasion resistant, tough fishing line for the really mean stuff, Sunline Shooter is for you.
All right, welcome back to BTL. Clay brings up a good point. Live minnow plus live scope will probably bring on the apocalypse. In that opening segment, yes, I did describe using a live minnow to live scope with. I've never done that before though. I've never done like the live shad thing. Like I've always wanted to. I'm friends with Justin Jones. Had him on guide day before. Does a great job there down at Roland Martin's Marina guiding on Lake Okeechobee. And I think he does mainly artificial, but I've talked to him also. He does like the golden shiner deal. And then my buddy Darren back in Illinois, he's gone down there and he's like, dude, it's actually pretty cool. Like you get the cork there and the golden shiner, and all of a sudden it starts doing the nervous bob, and then boom, 8-pounder on. So I mean, I'm not opposed to live bait at all. It's just kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. And then you just don't have the opportunity to do it if you're practicing for a tournament or bass fishing or obviously in a tournament. But yeah, you think back to when I was a kid, it would be like a number 8 gold Aberdeen hook, weightless, tied to 6-pound test on a spinning rod. And I would go down to Rock Springs and I would just pitch it to cruising largemouth bass. I had like my own little worm farm, and I sold night crawlers to people at church who had pet turtles and fish and salamanders and stuff. But I would get the biggest, juiciest night crawlers, and you have to put an ice pack in the bottom to keep them nice and cold and fresh, then completely weightless, and you just put it right through the very tip of the night crawl and you pitch it to those bass, and that worm was falling down. I mean, it's really kind of my introduction to the wacky worm or the chicken rig or the Nico rig if you want. But other than that, I was shocked. I wasn't shocked. I was surprised yesterday at how much different the fish acted when a live shad, which was dying because I had the weight of the jig head on it. I had a 1/8 ounce 1/0 little tungsten ball head. I was just shocked at how those fish went from completely neutral to I got to eat that one that's dying and falling out of the school. I know I was telling some of my buddies about it, and they're like, yeah, there's this dude on YouTube who puts big gizzards on the ledges on the TVA fisheries, and it's like crazy to see like the fish that he catches on that. I was talking to someone else who was like, yeah, you know, like the guys who are striper fishing talk about catching 6-7 pound smallmouth all the time down on Texoma with it. So maybe we can get Frank to do a live bait show. I wonder if Frank's ever live bait fish. That'd be interesting. Talking about him. Well, I mean, think about like Bob Krupe in the world records out on like Lake Castaic and all that stuff back in the 90s. They were big live crawfish guys. And I know Lake Fork and that, like water dogs and all sorts. Like I think it's Lake Fork. I know you have back in the day, but they use those big salamanders, like live salamanders and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, all right. Speaking of Frank is live tomorrow. I probably need to clear that. Great Lakes Finesse has come out with some new stuff. I know that they've been kind of making the rounds. I watch a little bit on Smallmouth Crush the other night, but I think they've dived into the world of rods, and then some new products. And then we will also have our final details for the meet and greet at the Bassmaster Classic in Fort Worth, Texas. Speaking of which, I promise this is the last week we'll talk about it because the event happens on Monday. The Classic Crawfish Boil to benefit St. Jude and Cook's Children is Monday, March 17th at Texas Whiskey Ranch in Fort Worth, Texas. It's a $150 ticket. 100% of those proceeds, like everything else, is paid for. So 100% of those proceeds go to St. Jude and Cook's Children, which is a sister hospital for St. Jude. St. Jude is a research hospital. Cook's uses that research based in, I think I got that right, 21 and up, live music, crawfish boil, includes the drinks. The classic competitors will be there. It is their one night off beforehand. If you're within 3-4 hours of this is 100% worth going to. It is tax deductible for the donation. It is a really cool event. A lot of guys and a lot of people have put in a lot of work for this behind the scenes. We've obviously had Chris Zaldane on. This is his home neck of the woods, as well as Trait, who's put in a lot of work for that. Check out classiccrawfishboil.com for more information. Have to buy tickets beforehand, though. You can't buy tickets at the door. So 6 to 10 p.m. Also, I'll show a little peek of it. I have a call after this for the St. Jude, Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic. You guys do a phenomenal job every year of supporting BTL and the Bass Fishing Saves Lives t-shirt, where all of the profits go to the Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic, which is at $7 million over the 20 years that they've done it. We raised over $800,000 last year, $1.1 million the previous year. Big event this year. We had Gretchen on. We've had Bart on, and just announced that event is giving away a raffling off a boat if you're a qualified angler. Also $25,000 for first place at Wabasha. I'll give a little sneak peek. So this should be available soon on the website. I'll have all the details, but we kind of changed it up a little bit. Like I said, I'm not sure I'm supposed to be showing that. That's a cool t-shirt. Kind of been the same theme every year, but switch it up. Here we have some fishermen. Also, Adam Bartuzek has an Ice Fishing Saves Lives t-shirt this time, so he got in on the act. Like I said, all those proceeds go to that. If you guys are going to be at the Bassmaster Classic and you want to hang out, I will be at a number of different booths next week. I think we're going to do a live from Pro Guide. I know that the AFCO, Sunline, Denali, Spro, Gamakatsu, all of those are kind of in one conglomerate. We'll also be at the Pro Bass Adventures booth. If you guys want to talk Mexico bass fishing, like Baccarat 10-pounders, ask about the past trips to El Salto and how you guys can be a part of that. In December, I'll be there. So will the owners, Josh and the rest of the guys, you can talk about that. The Bass Tank will be there with Scott Palmer. I know I'll be at the Bass Tank one of the times, a lot by myself, a lot with Frank. If you guys want to know about the mounts, the graphs, Beatdown Outdoors stuff, there'll be a Beatdown Outdoors booth too. Where else am I going to be? Oh, the Pradco booth with Uncle Frank and myself. They're giving away something each day that we're there on Saturday and Sunday. I'm not sure what it is. Some sort of lure, I would imagine. And if you're going to bring a lure for Frank to autograph, Frank is a stickler about you not having treble hooks on it, because that's a good way to end up with a number 2 in your palm. So, all right, that's all I got. Congratulations to Craig Lamb, the other two, Randy Hopper and William Shakespeare Jr., who's the 2025 inductees into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. It's kind of like Christmas today. So if you've noticed, I've had a wrap for the last 4 years. And this year, I did not have a wrap yet because we're working on something a little bit unique. I've teased this a little bit. I'm not going to announce it until later this month. But we started the Best on Tour This Week show with Dave Rush. It's a 5 to 10 minute just a objective what went on in the industry from a fishing standpoint, from an industry standpoint, putting it out on the YouTube, iTunes as well. So if you guys want to see what's going on in the industry and just a quick little snippet, that uploads at 6 a.m. every Tuesday. We'll have to have a couple weeks off, but 30 Tuesdays for the remainder of the week. And then, so that's one side of the wrap, and it's actually a split wrap. And the other side, let's just say I am registered, like I am fishing on March 29th, the day before practice starts or the day before I head to Arkansas to start practice for the third open on Norfolk Lake, like Crappie Palooza or Crappie Fest on Lake Fork, like an actual crappie tournament. Former Elite Series pro Jared Miller is jumping in it with me. And it's like a big bass bash, but for crappie. You weigh in your biggest crappie. You get like $5,000 for the biggest crappie. And then if it's over 3 pounds, you get like another $5,000. And then if it's like a record, you get like another $15,000. You have the potential to win $25,000. Realistically, $10,000. But that other side of the wrap, I need to ask when we can talk about that, like what it is. I guess you'll see it because I'm going to have the wrap done today. But took it up to Sign It. Justin over at Sign It. This is the third boat that they have wrapped for me. I'm not a big boat wrap guy. Like I enjoy not having the boat wrap, but everyone seems to have a boat wrap. I'll tell you what a boat wrap does, and now I'm rambling. It lets you see how guys really are in the opens. Because for the last 5 years, I've been like, yeah, no one, like everyone's super chill. Like if they run by, they're like, hey, Panger, you know, what's up? So I haven't had a boat wrap for the last 3 opens. It 100% isn't because people like me. It's because they don't want to be put on blast on BTL for pulling in on me. Because when it's cold and you have your hood up and you're in an unwrapped cat that looks just like everybody else, guys will pull right in on you. Like very close and do very sketchy things that they would not do in a wrap boat. Like that I never had happen. Like I didn't have any of this happen to me. And I'm not like saying it is on the water or there's ever been a confrontation. Primarily it's in practice with guys who like literally just act like you're not there and idle 20 feet away from you. But it's been drastically different as to the number of guys who are like, oh, this guy's fishing this spot. I'm just going to jump like 30 yards in front of him, but just cut him off, which never happened when I had a wrap. Like I said, I think they're scared of being put on blast, but that's all we got for today. I'm going to cue the music up. Excited to go pick up that wrap. Justin, the guys at Sign It have done a fantastic job the last couple of wraps. I think that's where I was going with that story. Same place, same time tomorrow. We'll talk to everyone then. See ya.